those who don't know me, where have you been? I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I'm the founder of Restful Sleep MD. And our mission really is to help families change their relationship with sleep, right? So that they can thrive and reach their fullest potential. So if you're a busy mom out there with kids, professional, trying to make it all happen, sleep is key. That is something we talk about all day, every day. And, for those who are not aware already, the Restful Sleep Place, a practice specifically for kids and young adults, is open to start taking appointments. We officially open October 3rd, but you can book your appointment today at the restfulsleepplace.com. I wanted to put that out there. And I am just really thrilled today. We're going to be talking about sleep and gut health in women. So if you have questions, pop them in. If you're on live, you know what to do. Wave and say hello. We'll definitely be coming back to answer questions. And so take it away. Please introduce yourself, Dr. Vivian, because I just know I will not do it justice, and I cannot even afford to do that. So I know I'm in the front of greatness. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Funke Brown. This is wonderful. I'm really glad to be on your platform. I'm very, very honored. So my name is Dr. Vivian Asamoah. I'm a gastroenterologist, so board certified in gastroenterology. I've been in practice for close to a decade. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Our practice is based in Houston, Texas. And so we are bringing you the sunny vibes from Houston here. What's a little bit different about our practice is that we are a very different kind of gastroenterology care. So we practice quite a lot of, you can call it integrative and holistic medicine. We are trying to go all the way back to the remedies that grandma advised us to use, right? The remedies that are really based on everything that's natural and clean, holistic and pure, that really incorporates what is truly health and wellness, and that's, mind, body, and soul. And so Dr. Brown and I connected because she is working on mind, body, and soul with everything related to sleep. Sleep is so important when it comes to health and wellness in every aspect. So that's, I think, the great connection here. And this is a wonderful conversation about the gut and sleep connection.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, we are off to start with a bang, just what you just said. And I'm just so excited because there's just so many elements to this of how sleep impacts our gut health and how our gut health impacts sleep, and the whole metabolism and disease and inflammation and things like that. But maybe to even get started, how does diet actually affect your sleep? Because I think it may sound basic, but many times we don't know. And I think this is a good place to start. So what are your thoughts on that?
So diet, let's just even start basic, right? And how simple things we may notice. It doesn't have to be like a huge test or anything, but things we notice as women when we are on our cycle. We notice what our cravings change, right? Our gut symptoms change and our sleep is affected. They've done studies that actually show when you're going through periods in the menstruative cycle, so from ovulation to actually different stages in the menstrual cycle, your sleep is affected, right? And some of that is because of the hormone change that also affects the gut. So that's one. Simple, easy things. When you eat late at night, right? When you eat spicy foods late at night, when you overeat at night and you go straight to bed, you don't sleep right. You may wake up in the middle of the night because you're feeling bloated and uncomfortable. You may wake up because you're actually having acid reflux and you don't feel good, right? So those are just some of the easy things that we can perceive. We can tell right away that I didn't eat right, my gut is messed up, and I'm not able to sleep. But when you dig in a little further in terms of the science, we actually know that there are more receptors, right? There's a higher production of neurotransmitters and receptors of serotonin, which is a stress receptor, as well as melatonin, which is a sleep neurotransmitter and receptor in the gut. So there's more melatonin produced actually in the gut than anywhere else. We often think it's the brain, but it's all actually produced in the gut. And this melatonin is, of course, responsible for helping us with our sleep cycles, and also directly impacts even the way our food, like our GI tract moves, right? So we know that melatonin, if you don't have enough, you can have acid reflux. That's one thing a lot of people don't know. So from a holistic standpoint, we actually manage some acid reflux, some GERD with melatonin supplements, and it helps. So if you're sleeping well and you don't have enough melatonin, that too can impact your gut. So it's that cycle, right? It's the gut to sleep and the sleep to the gut issues, right? So those are some obvious things we know from a clinical and scientific perspective. There's a lot of data right now about how inflammation can also affect the gut. And we can actually measure inflammation levels, inflammation markers in blood, and see that that also can result in poor sleep. So states of chronic inflammation, and we'll often think of our patients with fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, chronic cancers, right? Chronic diseases, one being cancer, that can affect the way you sleep. And we haven't even dug into the microbiome yet, but I want to make sure that we're answering all your people's questions, because right now we've talked about neurotransmitters from the brain. We've talked about inflammation affecting the gut. We've talked about the types of food that you eat that can affect sleep as well, right?
I mean, there's so many places I want to go with this. It's incredible. This is part, y'all see why, you see what I mean? You see what I mean by she's the expert, right? And I think, wow, even in terms of melatonin depletion or decreased melatonin in the gut, impacting our sleep, contributing to inflammation. And a lot of times when I think about a lot of the women I work with and also the kids, there's a lot on stress, on anxiety, and a lot of them actually come up with belly issues, and sometimes those belly issues occur at night. How does that even play a role? Like, is it the reflux? I know one of the things you said, and a lot of times we say, avoid eating heavy meals, spicy meals about 2 to 3 hours before bed. And sometimes it is because a lot of times people eat late, and so they have that physical discomfort. But anxiety, stress, GI or belly issues, how does that all impact sleep? What's that relationship?
That's a great question. And here, I wonder whether we're going to blame the GI tract or whether we're going to blame sleep. I think we're going to blame sleep, the lack of sleep. So it's this cycle of chronic stress, right? The day as a busy mom, you got a lot of stuff going on, especially when you're taking care of young kids, you're taking care of toddlers. You're probably not eating right during the day. I remember as a busy mom myself of young kids, I just used to snack off their plate. There wasn't that component of mindful eating because I just used to just eat whatever was left in a rush to get to the next. So mindful eating is important, right? So that all of doing those things starts building chronic stress. And then you've got a lot of stuff going on. So maybe your cortisol levels are even imbalanced, right? And it's making it harder for you to even sleep at night, right? And so we know that HPA axis, everything that has to do with the adrenals and cortisol, that's all connected to stress. When we talk about stress in general terms, from a scientific standpoint, as physician, we're actually talking about the HPA axis and how it affects cortisol and all that. And we know that cortisol can affect the gut in many different ways. So that we're saying cortisol is affecting your sleep, or your sleep is causing the cortisol imbalance. And that cortisol imbalance is leading to this chronic stress, which affects the gut in many ways. One of the first path is affecting that whole, you're not sleeping, so your melatonin is down. The second is that now you have chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation will affect your microbiome. That's shown time and time again. They actually will take little rats and put them through stress. One of the major stresses will be don't let the rats sleep, deprive them of sleep. And then they will then measure how it impacts their overall gut microbiome. So they'll go and take some stool out of them and analyze the microbiome and say, are these healthy bacteria, or is there what we call dysbiosis, which is kind of bad bacteria? And very often we see this whole stage from chronic stress, chronic inflammation, dysbiosis, bad bacteria, now causing symptoms of bloating, bowel habits, irregular bowel habits, diarrhea, constipation, weird cravings. And then that's an entire cycle that affects the motility. Because when it comes to the gut, we always think, oh, is it just, is it acid reflux? Is it just what I eat? But we know that that microbiome in the gut that's heavily affected by lack of sleep and stress affects the function of the digestive tract. So it's not surprising if you're not sleeping and your microbiome is off, that now you're not absorbing, you're not digestion, the motility of your gut is also off. And then if it's off at night, you can't sleep. So then it's like a vicious cycle that just continues, right? So that microbiome is very important when it comes to that gut stress, gut sleep connection.
So then, I think the obvious answer would be prioritize sleep, manage stress and all. But are there any other strategies to sort of replace that, disrupted gut microbiome?
Absolutely. It starts with what you're putting inside of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're talking, Dr. Funke Brown and I are talking about the mind, the body, the spiritual, that wellness that you want to bring. And it really starts with what you are feeding your body and soul with, right? And so making sure that you're eating healthy. Healthy means what? It usually means non-processed, right? Not necessarily organic. We can just say clean foods. You're watching to make sure that this is coming from a clean source, right? Nothing that has a ton of pesticides in it. You don't want to have foods with a lot of processed foods. So I always say avoid the 2 Ps, the processed and stuff with a lot of pesticides. You really want to be careful. And when we say processed, not everyone necessarily gets what that is. So then I break it down even further to my patients and my clients. I say anything that comes in a box that can be stored for months and months and months and months and never go bad is processed. Okay, it's processed, right? So anything that's coming out of a styrofoam box, like a bird, that's processed. Anything that they're calling fast food, like a salada, the salad that's already there, is processed. So you really want to enrich your body with things that are going to nourish your microbiome. Your microbiome is really these are the diamonds, these are the pearls of how your entire body works. So you want to take care of them, right? So avoiding sodas, avoiding in your beverages that are high in sugar, right? That have a lot of colorants and additives. We know all of this impacts our microbiome. Avoiding processed foods, going foods, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to be vegetarian or vegan, but you definitely want to eat more fruits and vegetables. Incorporate a colorful rainbow diet, because that's what really feeds and brings and regenerates this healthy microbiome. And so there's the food in itself and the choices that you're making, but there's also how you are enjoying your food. That's so important. So as busy moms, as we mentioned, the mindful eating, taking the time to prepare.
I just lost you. Are you still on? There we go.
You are enjoying your meals, allowing your body to take time to digest the foods. So that's really important as well. Yeah.
So how we eat matters as much as what we eat.
Absolutely.
In restoring this. This is so powerful. Now I have another question. A lot of times when we talk about, at least for me as a sleep physician, a lot of times one of the things I recommend is, yes, avoid eating too close to bedtime. And there are really 2 reasons why I recommend that. One is that if you go to bed with a full stomach, even if it's the cleanest meal, just that physical discomfort from the fullness. But then there's also, potentially reflux, right? That could contribute. And the question I have is, are there like specific foods that can trigger the reflux that you might have at bedtime? Or like, what is driving it? Is it mainly the reflux? Is it the physical fullness? Are there people that are more prone to one than the other? And how does this all just impact, sleep? That's one. And then in terms of timing, usually what we'll say is, about 2 to 3, hours, because you want to give you want to give yourself time to digest the food before you get into bed. Is that true? Tell us, what should we be doing with all
That is
this? And
100%.
so I would
Those,
love
yeah,
that plug in, I'm sorry, even ahead of time, to say many times moms are busy, like you said, they don't have 3 hours before bed to eat. Like they're like about to go to bed and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't eat dinner. So let me just shove something in real quick and get in, Hi, Dr. Una. So I really think that's, just help us kind of disentangle that.
Doc, you just asked me like 10 questions
I
in
know.
one.
I know.
I'm going to try and break this down, but these are all very, very important points. Very important points. Let's talk about the busy mom, right? Who is waking up every 3 hours because she's taking care of her kid. Her kid is maybe not sleeping fully at night, hasn't gone through your program yet, so is not getting that toddler to sleep quite yet. But if you have to eat something in the evening, you want to go with a protein. And why? I learned this actually from another physician who is an expert in everything that's ADHD, and that's for another conversation. But protein breaks down to something called amino acids. And amino acids are actually what makes the neurotransmitters that we need for our brain to work well. And remember, a lot of these neurotransmitters are made where? In the gut. And the receptors are in the gut as well. So they say the best food for you to eat at nighttime, if you're going to have a nighttime snack, is a high protein meal. Because you will, so that means a piece of chicken, a piece of salmon. That's actually much better than having a high carb meal, which is kind of going to throw that insulin balance off, throw your cortisol off, and not let you have a good sleep. It won't result in a very good sleep because carbs are also difficult they take a lot of enzymes to digest your foods. So protein is definitely better just from that perspective in terms of choice of food. And then in terms of quantity, yes, of course, if you overeat, you are creating a lot of just fullness and gastric juices in the stomach. And remember, you're going to be laying flat. There isn't even that gravity, that exercise. There's no movement that's going to be pulling some of this down. So yes, you are going to feel more uncomfortable, and the food in the stomach is just going to reflux right up into the chest. So uncomfortable. And if you're someone like me who does suffer from acid reflux, that's an absolute no-no, because that sphincter that connects the food pipe to the stomach is a little bit weaker in us people, ladies, especially ladies who've just gone through pregnancy. That sphincter is still very weak. Remember, a lot of us have reflux during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Take a while for that to get better. So you don't want to do anything that's going to make that sphincter weaker or push food upwards, right? And so easy things that make that sphincter weaker, we know some things that make that sphincter weaker. Peppermint will weaken that sphincter. And those of us who like snacking on chocolate at night will weaken that sphincter and cause more reflux. So those are things and high fat foods. So you want to stay away from high fat and stay away from carbs and really push protein. So that piece of chicken at night is fine. Piece of salmon is fine. A little bit of nuts at night is okay. Keeping the head of the bed elevated is one of those lifestyle behavior changes that actually does work. It's one of those lifestyle things that you can do that actually does work. So either getting a wedge or using 2 pillows or if you have one of those, very fancy beds, you can elevate the head of the bed by about 30 to 45 degree angle. It actually makes a huge difference. Making sure that everything flows downwards. So I hope I was able to answer some of those questions, right?
Yes, you absolutely did. And thank you for answering them so eloquently and so graciously too. Because you know what? The other piece that I see sometimes also is if folks have dinner early, right? If you have younger kids who have an earlier bedtime, you may have had dinner at, I don't know, 6 p.m. And so at maybe 9 or 10, when you're ready to go to bed, you might be hungry again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And so even if you want to have a snack, I think the quantity is something to pay attention to, and then opting for protein. So like the handful of nuts, like you said, like, a piece of, chicken or turkey or things like that. I think that is so, so good. Avoiding making your stomach too full, because the distension from that physical discomfort enough can make reflux worse, or can just make you uncomfortable. And then I love the practical strategies you said about, propping the head of your pillow up, because if you're someone who's had a late meal, you know how that feels like. It is unpleasant.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is really, really good. Now, another question I, I, I wanted to ask too is around hydration, right? Because one of the things we want to do is make sure we stay well hydrated, because our hydration status actually affects our sleep quality. But if you're overhydrated, you might end up waking up frequently to use the bathroom, and then that's going to disrupt your sleep as well. But I know, and I'm assuming, of course, good hydration also helps with gut motility. So how do we strike that balance? How do we manage it practically? How much is enough? There's so much information out there about how much water we should drink, but how do we strike that balance and make sure we're well hydrated, but not to the point where we're waking up every 2 hours to pee?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And, some of these tips I learned, Dr. Brown, I didn't learn from my medical school books. I learned from grandmas, who tell me this is the way you want to do it. So a couple of patients of mine who have been, of course, who have lived their lives, had several children, and are always sharing tips with me, say, the way to stay hydrated when you're a busy mom is drink all your water early in the day. It is a wonderful tip to just leave a liter of water, like either a bottle or a tumbler, lukewarm water. And when you rise in the morning, that's the first thing you grab. And you want to grab that as you are, picking out your clothes that you want to wear that day, walking downstairs or walking in your house to make the kids breakfast. You want to just keep drinking. And so getting that 1 liter in that morning is a great way to already make up for the volume of water that you should have daily. And I keep saying water here, guys. It's not coffee. It's not soda. It's not other things, because all of those things actually can dehydrate you. We know that caffeine can actually dehydrate. So stick to water. And we know that everyone needs, they say, approximately half of your body's weight in water every day to ensure clean detox, good bowel movements, great motility of the bowels, right? So, you should generally, most of us, you calculate your weight in pounds and you want half of that. And the best time to drink most of that, at least the first liter, is that first hour. When you wake up, that's the first thing that should touch your lips. Not coffee, it's water. It's water, guys. And drinking it lukewarm and trying to get that full liter in about 30 minutes is a wonderful way to initiate and trigger bowel movements. So you'll notice that right after there, you're ready to have a bowel movement, ready to start your day.
Oh, that is good on so many levels, because that's one of the things that actually even improves, just promotes alertness overall. So even if you've had a really rough night where you felt like you didn't get a good night of sleep, one of the things we recommend is, first, of course, exposing yourself to light, because it has this alerting properties that helps with your circadian rhythm. But the other is being hydrated, because over the course of the night, you lose, we call it insensible water loss. So either if you're mouth breathing or just sweating, you lose water. You're a little bit behind from the moment you wake up. And so making it so easy to, one, help you just really boost, that exhaustion and help you to feel more alert, making it accessible, putting water right next to you before the rest of the day starts and you forget, you forget about those you said. So I think that is just such a really, really good tip. One question I asked, now people have said, and I really don't know, I mean, maybe we're going off topic now, whatever, it's all good, but does coffee increase your GI motility? Does it make you go to have a bowel movement too? Does it make it your stomach? Is there that?
Coffee has some tremendous benefits. Problem with coffee is that it's so good that often we go for that second,
Yeah.
third, fourth cup. So let me talk about the great things about coffee from a gut perspective.
Mm.
It does trigger your bowel movements. It does. So it's a natural stimulant laxative. It gets things moving. So it's like a little wake up in the morning, which is great. Now, you can still drink your water first and have your little cup of coffee after. Not a problem. Okay. The second thing about coffee is that it's a natural liver cleanser. It's a liver detoxifier. We've actually done, there are actually scientific studies looking at liver enzymes in people with fatty liver, which is a common thing now, and actually them drinking coffee daily, we actually see a reduction in the fat in the liver. Absolutely. So there's some great benefits about coffee altogether. The quality is important. What you're putting in your coffee is important, right? That extra sugar, that, hazelnut creamer, that has a lot of emulsifiers, not necessarily good for you. And how much of it you're drinking, right? You don't want to saturate your adenosine receptors with so much coffee, right? That's an issue. So a cup in the morning is totally fine. It does help stimulate a lot of people's bowels, but too much coffee can also cause diarrhea. So you
Mm.
want to, yeah.
Thanks for highlighting that. So for my coffee drinkers, a lot of the moms pretty much thrive on coffee or just survive on coffee, not thrive all day because they're exhausted. So hearing that coffee has some benefits, but I think stepping back to say, why am I reaching for coffee the moment I wake up, really starts to make you think, okay, maybe there's some things I could do with improving my sleep before I reach for coffee, i.e. drink, prioritize your sleep, get enough sleep, improve your sleep quantity so you don't need to be dependent on coffee, but you can still enjoy the wonderful benefits of coffee because, hey, who doesn't like it? And then also making sure the timing of coffee intake, that's really important. You really don't want to take coffee too late in the day because it has a very long half-life. And so we don't want that now disrupting your nighttime sleep. So it's really about striking a balance. We're not saying do not drink coffee. I mean, who couldn't use it? We could all do with a good bowel movement, right? So you could take that with adequate water and you are good to go, like literally and figuratively. So definitely take advantage of that. So on that note, this has been amazing. Even for me, I've learned so much. We've gone through quite a lot, and
We've talked about a lot of
I
things. Yeah.
and I think we just might have to have you come back because there are just so many that I'm like, we could go here, there, and everywhere. But I think this has just added so much value. Thank you again for spending time with us. Now, where can we find you, work with you, learn more about the work that you do?
Absolutely. So you can find me on social media. On Instagram, I'm Dr. Vivian Asamoah. On Facebook, I actually have a private Facebook group called Natural Gut Relief, where we talk about everything natural that can help relieve gut issues. And you all are welcome to join us. We have invited guests, amazing guests like Dr. Brown on, and should be having her on soon. So I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, my practice for any of you who are South Side, Central South, we are based here in Houston, Texas, and always welcoming new patients. And our practice is different. We provide a different kind of gastroenterology care, one that's truly focused on a holistic food first, food as medicine approach, above and beyond everything. So you can find me definitely on social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so we're going to have these all included in the notes so that you guys can grab a link, follow on Instagram. Definitely check out the Facebook group. I think there's so much value. I mean, because if we step back and think, we've not talked about one single medication here, y'all. And of course, medicine helps in situations, but how about we try what is more holistic and really take advantage of what has been given to us freely by nature, right? Sleep, really helping, nutrition, really helping our bodies do what it knows it's capable of doing. So thank you again so much. This has been insightful. Y'all, it was awesome hanging out with you again this Tuesday. I'm really excited. Next week, I think I'm going to be running solo because we're launching the opening day for Restful Sleep Play. So talking, answering questions. I look forward to engaging with all of you guys. If you have a child or a young adult in need of sleep help, then absolutely schedule an appointment online at therestfulsleepplace.com. All right, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.